Today we're catching some sun and waves with Sherry, a QHS member whose life is as vibrant and refreshing as a seaside breeze. What currents brought her to the sunny shores of the quantum shift? Let's surf behind the scenes to see the waves she's been riding.
Hi, I'm Sherry, and this is my prequel. I was born in 1951 in the northeast corner of Arkansas, and there were 7 kids in the family, 4 sisters and 2 brothers. I was the youngest, and the oldest was 20 years older than me. 2 of my sisters and 1 brother has passed away. We were always close growing up. Even when we moved away, we would plan family get-togethers back at the hometown. And I wanted to show you one picture. My brother Enoch was always very mischievous. And there's a picture of 2 of my sisters and me, and I'm in the middle. And we thought it was just going to be a picture of the 3 of us. And we didn't know until the film got developed that he had snuck behind us. And if you look real close, you can see his face in between my sister Barb and me. So I thought you would enjoy that. And at that time, I was 34 and he was 38. My mom died in 2013. And she missed her birthday by 11 days. Had she survived and lived, she would have turned 101. And she was Cherokee and German. She never did learn how to drive. And she cleaned houses and took in ironing. And my dad died in 1986 of cancer. He was Scottish and Irish. And when I was in grade school, he developed emphysema and lost a lung. He never was on oxygen, and he had been a heavy smoker. He quit that after that happened. And he tried for years and years to get on disability, and finally he was approved, but it took a very long time for that to happen. So we were on welfare, and we were on food stamps, and a lot of years families would adopt us at Christmas time. And the very first time that happened, I was still pretty young, and I was just amazed at these people that would come in with all this food and all of these wrapped presents, and it really touched me, and it stayed with me forever, and when I grew up, I paid it back. I adopted families at Christmas time, and it's such a joy for me. And I've done other things, whether it's monetary or just, helping out physically, since I've been an adult. And when I was a baby, my mom told me that I had been put in an iron lung because I had pneumonia. And I really wish that I would have asked more questions at the time that she was telling me, but I was younger and I didn't. And I had 2 sisters that died before I was born, and they were 6 and 9. And one sister died of pneumonia, so I'm sure my mom was really worried about me, when I was a baby, being put in the iron lung. But I survived there. And when I was a toddler, she said we lived out in the country and we heated with a wood stove. And I fell up against the wood stove and burned the whole side of my face. And I asked her, I said, well, Mom, what in the world did you do? Because I have no scars on my face. And she just said, Sherry, friends, family, everybody at church prayed for me. And I said, oh, prayers answered, didn't they? And then when I was 8 or 9 years old, my parents took me to get the polio vaccine. Yay! 3 weeks later, the doctor was diagnosing me with polio. So I was in the hospital for about a month, and I don't remember being able to move anything. I do know I was able to move my head. I did sleep a lot. One day, my mom comes in, and I remember the look on my face. I had a big old smile and my eyes were just shining. And I said, Mom, look what I can do. And I was able to pull myself. I was resting on my left elbow, and I pulled myself up into the sitting position. Now, I was still paralyzed from the waist down. But my mom's eyes got as big as silver dollars, and she got a big old grin on her face. And so later on that day, the doctor comes in, and she says, "Sherry, show the doctor what you can do." So I did, and he had the same reaction that my mom did. And I don't really remember doing physical therapy, but I do remember being in a room. There was a lot of people standing around, and I was standing up trying to walk. Wasn't long after that I was dismissed from the hospital, but I still couldn't walk. My legs were weak, and I would fall. And so I had to be carried. And so when I got home, Mom and Dad had to tell me that my cat, my very first pet I ever had, died while I was in the hospital. And so I asked Daddy where he was at, and he said he buried him at the end of my backyard. And I asked him if he would carry me out there. So he did. And while he was carrying me, he was telling me the story and everything. And we got to where he buried him, and I was able to say my goodbyes and all. So I was at peace after that. I had to go to polio clinics 2 times a year for a long time, and I hated that. Eventually, it ended up being once a year. But you had to wear the hospital gowns, the kind that open in the back. And I was young, shy, and it was very embarrassing for me. But the last time I finally had to go I was in high school. They finally dismissed me. What polio has left me with is my inability to do sit-ups. I have to use, my hands or my arms to pull me up into a sitting position. And another thing that I'm not able to do is run. I've learned to walk fast, when I want to work out and stuff. But if I run, my legs give away on me with no warning whatsoever, and I fall. And when I was a young adult, we used to get together and play softball and stuff. And I'd be running in between bases and fall, and I'd always get out. But I'd do that at least 2 times in a game. It was still fun. So the positive thing that happened in those events was that I learned how to fall without hurting myself. And I never broken a bone. So that's the positivity there. I married at 19, and we had a son and a daughter. And my junior year of high school, I went to work for the local utility company doing data entry and stuff after school and in the summer. And I did that through my senior year. And when I graduated high school, they offered me a full-time position, and I accepted it because I loved what I did, and I had absolutely no desire to go to college. So I worked there. The office manager taught me how to figure the payroll, print the checks, pay bills, do month-end reports and stuff, and I absolutely loved that type of work. And I stayed there until my husband graduated college, and then he got a job out of state. And so we moved, had to give my notice, and my office manager was really sad about that because I helped her out a lot. And after a couple of years, we decided we want to move back to our hometown. And at that time, I went to work at the bank, a local bank. There was 2 banks in town. And I stayed there until my son was born. And then I wanted to stay home and raise the kids myself. So 2 years later, I had my daughter. And then 3 years after my daughter was born, we had this big building in our backyard. And I decided that I was going to open up a ceramic shop. And so I did that. I poured the molds, made the greenware all the way to the finished product. I gave classes 4 times a week. And I went over to Memphis, Tennessee, and did specialty technique classes and come back and teach them to my students. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it because they would come out and, paint ceramics and stuff like that and be creative. I had that until our divorce, and I sold the company. And the kids and I moved to Kansas. I did remarry, and we were really involved with the kids' lives, their school, their activities, their sports, friends, everything. And they still live within 20 to 30 minutes from me. My husband and I had a service company, and after that divorce, I went to work for a local utility company again. Only this time it was on the non-regulated side, and they needed a technical support coordinator that could be the liaison between the company and the heating and air conditioning companies. Well, I had been in the heating and air conditioning business for over 11 years, and I knew the lingo, I knew all the companies and the owners and supply houses. I knew everything about it, and so it was an easy hire for them. And I did love that position too. And I was there 8 or 9 years, and then the utility company decided that they wanted to get out of the non-regulated side, and so they sold the company, and I went to work for the new company. I did turn 50 whenever I was working at. I stayed with the new company for a couple of years, and then it just didn't feel right anymore. I was burned out, I guess. And so I gave my notice and decided that I just wanted to do my own thing for a little while. And I've been a Reiki master for over 25 years. And so I decided that I would do healing sessions, and I do other healing modalities also. And I know about crystals and the tuning forks, pretty much everything that there is. And so I did. I taught classes and did healing sessions. I did that pretty solid for about 3 years, and a friend of mine wanted me to go to work for the company that she works for. It's a not-for-profit organization. They only wanted me 30 hours a week. They had 4 offices, main office, and then 3 branch offices. They wanted me to be a clinical support staff in one of the branch offices. Each of the branch offices had anywhere from 5 to 8 licensed clinical social workers, and the clientele was mostly victims of domestic violence and children therapy. They did some marriage counseling and just regular counseling also. But and then they would do anger management classes. And so I thought, okay, I can still do my own thing and work there 30 hours a week, and it sounds like a pretty cool position. So I did that, and about 3 years into it, my boss wanted me to start learning the insurance billing, and so I learned that. I was really good at it, and I had a very low AR, lowest that anyone that ever had this position had, so I was happy about that. But I did love that. I posted the payments, did the write-offs, and did month-end reports and stuff. And 10 years in, I'm ready to retire. And so I retired. I absolutely love it. And no, I'm not one that regrets retirement. No, I don't have any regrets whatsoever. And I love going to my grandkids' ball games. My kids gave me 6 grandkids, so I have plenty of ball games to go to, and I love doing that. And I love walking, hiking the trails, riding my bicycle, and traveling. And I love traveling on my motorcycle. Now, it's actually a trike, a 3-wheel motorcycle, because I won't ride the 2 wheels anymore. And I would travel, take long trips with friends that had bikes, and I would even travel by myself. And one year, I wanted to go down to Arkansas. We was having a family reunion, and I wanted to ride my motorcycle, and I decided to do it. But I was a little bit worried because my mom didn't know I had it, and I didn't know how she was going to react to it. So get down there, and there's already other kids there, and they're out in the front, and Mom's out there, and I pull up in the driveway, and Mom had no idea who I was. And I took my helmet off, took my glasses off, and she saw it was me. She comes walking over as fast as she can, and she says, "Oh, Sherry, I am so happy that you have that." She said, you have always loved motorcycles. And so that was a big relief for me, you know. And the next day we were out at my brother's, lives out in the country. We were out there having a cookout, and she gets on my motorcycle. So I thought, well, I'm going to put my helmet on her. And she put my gloves on. She was acting like she was riding. Of course, we had to take pictures of that. And we were down there. We were celebrating her 95th birthday. So that was pretty cool. With QHS, I've been with QHS since the beginning. I've used all of the handheld devices, and I'm waiting on my HHS and, of course, the QArc. And most of you know that I have had hip problems. I need both hips replaced. I have a hard time walking. I have more good days than I do bad days these days. But I'm still using my walker, so I would love to be able to kick the walker to the curb and walk normal. And I would love to be able to run if I want to run without the fear of falling down. I would, of course, all of my organs regenerated, and my eyes 20/20 again. And I'm ready to find my life partner, and I want to be able to get out there and find him. I want to, make memories and share our lives together. I'm just so ready for that, and I know it'll happen. I know he's there waiting on me. I just got to get there. So, another thing, I have told a ton of people about the touch, and I've given them my testimony. I've giving them your testimony. I've taken pictures of posting telegrams from people, and showed it to them, and I don't really think that any of them has done anything about it, because they've never gotten back to me. And that's sad, I know I'm allowing, because they have their life, but it sure would be nice to be able to take some of them with me. So that's my life. Thank you for listening.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.